What it do, gang? Today, I am not reviewing a game. Instead, I will be reviewing an experience, a journey through the world of a Plague Tale: Innocence that I am reluctantly inviting you on. Get yourself a French martini, recipe for which is at the end of the video, and join me in seeing just what this French game has to offer. But before you do that, a word of warning. This review will contain spoilers, which are mostly of visual nature. Stick around until the end of the video for a chance to win a copy of a Plague Tale: Innocence. By the way, if you can hear a strange clicking sound throughout the video, don't be alarmed. Those are just my tired, dehydrated eyelids. Now, folks, I'll be frank with you. I cannot be 100% certain what the game is about for one simple reason. I played it as the devs intended. I played it in French. French voiceover, French subtitles, French menu, and French women. My experience may have been unique, et moi sous les mains. A Plague Tale: Innocence came out in May 2019, and while I would always stumble upon a review or some clips of it on the interwebs, I never really wanted to commit, or as the French would say it, s'engager. Now, before we get into the meat of the game, let us clarify why that was the case for moi. Two reasons. Firstly, those familiar with this cesspool of a channel will know that I have a strange affinity towards shitty games, so naturally I kept my distance from A Plague Tale. Secondly, I mainly play role-playing games. Some CRPGs, some ARPGs. I might even play around with a HRPG here and there. Rarely do I dabble with what I'll call story-rich adventure stealth games, or SRASGs as the industry refers to them. There I was in my room one day, eating a baguette, as I normally do on a cloudy Tuesday afternoon, and all of a sudden I could hear something calling out my name.
George!
Ever so softly.
George!
Gently. It turned out to be your mother in the end, but the seed had been sown, and all I could think of from that point on was to get my hands on Amicia and her little brother, Hugo. A Plague Tale: Innocence. You want it. But have you played it? SteamCharts.com tells me you have not. The TLDR version of the review is as follows. Everybody who enjoys a story-focused game should absolutely give A Plague Tale a go. Take Amicia and Hugo out for a spin. The story, I believe, is based on true events that transpired in the 14th century. The game takes place in France. Your father, I think, remember, I played it in French, so details may be a little foggy, takes you to a neighboring village's apple orchard to destroy their fruits. You load up your sling and you ravage all the ripe fruits. Apple by apple. You strip the tree of its identity, and you don't stop until every single fruit has been pulverized. Why did your father make you do this? I don't know. I had trouble understanding what was being said. Either way, it later turned out that the apples you've destroyed had actually belonged to a local apple kingpin whose operation you've just disrupted. And for this, he seeks vengeance. He and his henchmen raid your estate and slaughter every living soul as punishment and a show of strength. Normally, they wouldn't have known who destroyed their apples, but your mischievous rascal of a father carved your house's sigil into the bark of the tree, making the investigation that much easier for Mr. Kingpin. You guys with me so far? Your mother helps you and Hugo escape the village by sneaking through the flower beds, for that just happens to be the henchmen's weakness. They have trouble distinguishing patterns. They actually share that weakness with some herbivores, so once you're in between flowers, you become virtually invisible to them. Unfortunately, your mother doesn't quite make it out, and Hugo becomes your responsibility. As Amicia, you make a promise to yourself to exact vengeance upon Mr. Kingpin, and thusly, you start training to become the deadliest slingshots woman in the world, and you won't let anything stand in your way. You even rob a defenseless elderly woman who tried to shelter you. Amicia truly is a despicable human being. A scélérat, if you will. You even get into an amateur cage match at one point, wherein you must strip your opponent of his armor, piece by piece, in order to get a clear shot at his fucking head. The French world was brutal back then. I had no idea. They certainly don't teach this in class. Throughout your journey, Amicia becomes increasingly devious, and it soon becomes clear that morals and human decency are just some of the characteristics she lacks. Over time, her arsenal of torturous ways to dispatch any who stand in her way only widens, as she eventually resorts to throwing acid at her enemies' faces. And this feels like the appropriate time to mention there are rats in this game. Rats that are a result of the occult, of Satanism, which you later learn Hugo practiced with zeal. At times, Amicia will even sick the flesh-eating rats onto her enemies to revel in their anguish, their agony. French women, am I right? Towards the end of the game, you give Hugo a sip of overproof vodka and you send him off to a school wherein he must master the occult, to perfectionner, the art of conjuration and control of the hellish rodents. For while Amicia's primary foe is the Apple Kingpin, the endgame antagonist, Hugo's adversary is far more evil. It's the French church itself, and the man at its helm, the Inquisitor, Vitalis Benavent, who reverse-engineered the plague-carrying rats to serve him and the mighty heavens on his quest of subjugating the entirety of Europe. Hugo is the only one who can stop Benavent and his army of heavenly rats. That's what I could gather from the story. I might be off here and there, but I am sure that I understood the core of it. The Innocence. Visual stimuli. Graphics are no joke in A Plague Tale. It's a beautiful game with breathtaking vistas, and it runs surprisingly well. I suppose the linearity of the world lends itself quite heavily to performance, which would make sense given how good games such as Resident Evil look without being overly taxing on your PC. I was running it at 1440p Ultra, and the frame rate was buttery smooth. Something I am sure you can tell from watching my compressed 30 frames per second video. Character animations are well done, and there are no awkward movements or janky facial expressions, which is especially surprising as the game isn't exactly a AAA release, and it certainly isn't priced as one either. It costs $45 and discounts are quite frequent. Auditory sensations. Voice acting, French at least, is fantastic. Every performance is absolutely superb, especially by Leopoldine as Amicia.
Hugo! Réponds-moi! Hugo! Ça suffit, Vitalis! Vous êtes seul! Rendez-nous notre mère ou bien...
Cécile as Hugo.
Je peux aller la voir maintenant?
On doit aller chercher maman, Amicia.
Non, pas encore. Elle nous a dit de trouver Laurentius.
Mais c'est bête, on va se faire attraper.
And Theodore as Vitalis.
Redevenez
Reste-là, Amicia!
Les flots d'anges s'abattront sur la vieille chair. Revenez, revenez vers votre...
It truly is rare to be so taken by performance in a foreign language, but... forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. But A Plague Tale delivers incredibly well. Music, much like gameplay, which I'll get to in a minute, is inspired by The Last of Us, or so I think at least. It's hard not to see some similarities here and there. It is grand when it needs to be, somber when it fits the scene, and serene when the story allows for it. Take a sip of that French martini, wipe your moustache, and have a listen alongside me.
Le sanglier, il perd du sang.
C'est la nuit qui le fait sortir.
Crains rien, c'est juste moi de...
Il nous faut du feu.
On doit sortir de là.
Amicia, il y a du feu en haut.
On y est. Vitalis, Amicia, il va faire une grosse bêtise. Je le sens.
Une bêtise?
Gameplay. At first, I thought this would mostly be a gaming experience, so to speak. I didn't expect much in terms of it, but I have to say, I was positively surprised to realize I was wrong. It takes a while to get going, but once it does, you will be having a blast with it. Whether you're sneaking by the Apple henchmen, drenching their faces in acid, herding rodents, scavenging, or just running from A to B, listening and immersing yourself in the conversations, you will be engaged, stimulated, and eventually satisfied. There are scripted chase scenes here and there, but it's mostly you and your Satan-worshipping brother, Hugo, fighting to survive in this dark French world. Being a story-focused game, A Plague Tale does unfortunately suffer from a rather inconvenient checkpoint here and there. You know what kind of checkpoint I am talking about. The kind where there are items to pick up, possibly even some crafting that needs doing. Followed by a situation wherein it's likely you will fail a couple of times, meaning you get to do all the menial shit 2, 3, or 5 fucking times. A message to the developers of the industry. Please stop. We don't mind failing and having to retry a certain part of your game a few times. But when you make us pick up all the crafting ingredients just as many times as we fail, it takes away the fun we could otherwise be having. Heed this call. Otherwise, we are going to have a problem. Over and out. I wish I knew what I was upgrading. A Plague Tale Innocence is, to put it simply, a superb game, and having understood none of it, I would still highly recommend you go and treat yourself, preferably with subtitles in a language you do comprehend. It was as delicious and as succulent as a French martini, for which you'll need some vodka, blackberry liqueur, pineapple juice, and, if you're feeling adventurous, some lime juice and sugar syrup. Chill your desired drinking receptacle. There are several methods for this, most common of which are fanning the glass, leaving it outside for a couple of hours on a chilly night, or filling it up with ice and water. Grab a shaker. Now, it doesn't have to be a professional shaker. I got you covered. You can even use a jar, preferably one on the larger side. And if you don't have that, then your French martini will require an extra step of buying some gherkin, eating them, and then thoroughly washing the jar. To your shaker of choice, add the following: a shot and a half of vodka, half a shot of blackberry liqueur, 50 ml of pineapple juice, and a half a shot of lime and sugar syrup. Though remember, the last 2 ingredients are optional. For lime and sugar does not a French martini make. Fill up your shaker with ice and shake vigorously for about 7 seconds. Then, fine strain into your chilled glass. Prendre plaisir. For your chance to win A Plague Tale Innocence, courtesy of Mr. Lubomir, simply subscribe to my channel. If you're already a subscriber, then you're halfway there, and drop a comment under the video. What should your comment contain? I don't know. It's your comment. Go crazy. The winner will be picked out after 48 hours of the review going live. Remember, fellow degenerates, A Plague Tale Requiem is coming out in October, and this is the perfect time to familiarize yourselves with the first game, as I have, thanks to the unyielding generosity of Lubomir Mitkov and his new sidekick, Israel Orban, who both support me via Patreon. You can support me too by giving me some of your money.
Send me my money. Send it immediately. Literally immediately.
But if you're a broke-ass bitch and you can't afford to give me some of your life savings, then you can join our Discord server. Links to both are in the description. Adieu les amis, je vous verrai dans le prochain. I hope I didn't butcher that completely. Take it easy, chimps.